Okay, team, what do you think technology is trying to do to me today? Is it telling me not to go live? Is it telling me, Bianca, you've already talked too much today? Bianca, you need a day off. Who knows what it's telling me? But either way, this camera is very detailed. Right, let's get special expert guest Heather in, shall we? Come on, girl. You got this. Um, I'm kind of just waiting for Heather to join. um, Request to join. How are we, folks? How are we, team? Oh my goodness. So this week has been a bit manic, what with the 5-day coaching method coming up next week. Super, super excited, super stoked. We've got quite a few people pending, ready to be let into their own group, which is super, super exciting. However, in that process, I totally forgot to put the message out that we've got this incredible guest with us today, Heather. This is going to be super exciting. She is a holistic healer and consciousness leader. Absolutely incredible. So I can't wait to have her on. However, Facebook and Zoom do not connect anymore. So we are having a little bit of teething issues getting people on. So I do apologize about this. Add. Yes, send an invitation. Woo woo. Excellent. So down Heather. Heather, bless her cotton socks, has been the most patient with me today. The kindest. She has sent out a reminder to me, a check-in, two check-ins. I am so sorry for my uselessness today, my lovely. But yeah, I think like I just did a massive like value dump for my clients. I did an impromptu workshop. I feel like my brain just went solely into that and then it just left the planet for everything else. Anyway, we are here. Thank you so much, Heather, for joining me. I appreciate it, and I appreciate you so much. Thank you so much for coming on. You have so much to give, and I can't wait to hear everything that you've got to say. So, did you want to just start off by introducing yourself, and maybe letting us know how you arrived to where we're at today?
Yeah. Can you hear me okay?
Fantastic.
Okay, awesome. Well, my name is Heather, and I am a consciousness leader, holistic healer, spiritual healer. I've consider myself many titles, but I mainly focus on helping women move through and break through toxic patterns, like toxic life patterns, healing through trauma, working through shadow work, ultimately getting to a place where they can be in alignment so that they can manifest the life that their soul keeps showing them that they
Mm-hmm.
can have, that they keep feeling called to get to, and helping them break past all the noise and the barriers and the stories that tell them that they can't get there, and kind of just healing. I have a lot of traumatic experiences that I've been through throughout my life, so I'm pretty well versed in trauma healing. So coming out of toxic relationships, healing that inner child from the mother and father wounds, just different things like that. These are things that I like to focus on, and I'm really passionate about mental health, spirituality, just helping people get in alignment with who they feel they were always kind of meant to be, or even just remembering who they are, because that was a big piece for me. I feel like I didn't even realize like how powerful and incredible and unique I was as an individual, until I had my big trauma experience that kind of sent me into an awakening, of a personal awakening, to where I realized like I had choices in how I was going to live my life and who I was going to be. And that sent me on the journey that led me into my career, which is where I'm at now, here helping people with those things.
Amazing, amazing. So, how did you get into being this coach, this fantastic coach?
So when I actually about 7 to 10 years ago, I'm losing like track of time. I had a salon. I was a salon owner, and my dad had helped me open up my salon. And 2 weeks after I opened my salon, my dad passed away unexpectedly. And I didn't know at the time, but his death really sent me into a spiritual awakening, and everything started to kind of fall apart around me. I realized that I was putting so much energy and care into things that I really didn't care about. I was only doing it because I thought like I needed to be successful, to make sure that I had enough money, to make sure society was happy with me. And I just realized that I was kind of a shell of a person. I didn't really have like my own personality. Everything that I liked because of my surroundings or because of what I thought I had to like. It wasn't me. And then I finally realized that I had never even really got to know who Heather was. And after my dad died, things started awakening for me. And then not long after that, I had my daughter, and unfortunately went through a really traumatic divorce, which sent me into facing a lot of my codependency wounds and a lot of my relationship patterns. And I had been in a lot of toxic patterns throughout my relationship history because of that codependency. And so when all of that trauma and my dad's death and my divorce and then the postpartum depression, all of it was happening all at once and in like a very short period of time. So my mental health was just going down very quickly. And so when I was in this period, my body, I was trying to like numb myself and run away, trying to get to a place where I didn't have to think about all the stuff, like all the stress that was on my mind. So I was numbing it with marijuana or distractions or relationships or whatever I could until I couldn't do that anymore. My body was beginning to shut down from the stress, and I don't know why, but something told me to go pick up my yoga book. And that's when I started kind of diving into the chakras, and everything was starting to make sense as to why I couldn't communicate. All my chakras were blocked. And I became obsessed with learning me down the road of doing all sorts of research. I tried different therapies, but I always ended up back into a more holistic route of healing through meditation, yoga, chakra healing, energy healing, and all of those things. And then the shadow work and emotional release, all of those things were more beneficial and helpful to me. And the more and more I did it, and the more and more I realized how helpful it was. And I've always been this way where I don't know if it's like ADHD or whatever, but when someone teaches me something, I have to like take it and then make it into something a little bit more simple or whatever. I have to kind of innovate it a little bit. And then I love to teach the way that I learned differently than whatever I was taught. And so I would learn all these different meditations and these different techniques for holistic healing and in mind, body, spirit alignment. And I would take from these amazing sources, and I just kind of ended up creating my own kind of system that worked really well for me in a way that made sense to me. And because of that system, there were other people, thankfully, that really resonated with the path that I like to go through. And so I ended up, a lot of the certification opportunities that I had just kind of came to me, landed in my lap. I didn't even know you could be a coach. I didn't even know like that was a thing or that people did that. But then because I was so obsessed and it was like all I was doing, it just, I saw something today actually that says you don't manifest what you want, you manifest who you are. And that is reminding me of this. It's like, I didn't even know that I was on my way to this. It was just meant for me. And things started happening, even though at first those things were very traumatic and uncomfortable. And I wasn't excited that they were happening, but they were all happening for me to kind of set me up for what I was always going to do. And so the opportunities just kept landing in. And then after that, everything just kept showing me like, this is what I need to focus on, helping people with their emotions, helping people get into alignment with their inner peace so that the things that they want to experience can just come to them. And they're not working so hard or thinking that they have to be two steps ahead to be successful, because none of those things matter. And just helping people get into alignment so that they can heal their stress responses and just see that when they step back and surrender, everything can come to them. And they can also see that when they're not stepping back and surrendering, how they can be blind to their miracles and magic and opportunities that are already around them. And so it's really cool whenever you see that noise clear out, what opens up, what magic pathways open up after that. So that's kind of what led me here.
Amazing. Just those few steps, just those few steps. Excellent. Okay, well, thank you so much. I want to integrate a little bit more, or a little bit of manifestation, but also a little bit of what you said about healing trauma and stuff, because there's a lot of people that will resonate in this group. A lot of ladies in here have had trauma or even noticed these toxic patterns that they might have. So a lot of that kind of tends to result in self-sabotaging style behavior. So what I mean by that is overeating, not sticking to promises, binging, giving up on things very easily when it comes to themselves, kind of stuff like that. So I don't know where really to start with that, but is there a way to suss out those patterns? I guess is the first question, and then where would you take that from there?
So the process that I bring people through when they're experiencing self-sabotaging behaviors, or they're having trouble, prioritizing themselves or setting healthy boundaries within themselves or around others so that they can experience what they want to experience and spend more time doing what they're planning on doing and wanting to experience or do, I essentially kind of help them identify if they're doing it. And then if they're doing it, we always need to examine, like, what are the thought patterns that are coming up and the emotions tied to those thought patterns. And then I always like to guide my clients through different meditations where, you're more focused around food. I do a little bit of health stuff too, because it's all, sabotage is sabotage, whether you're sabotaging your relationships or, your personal work or your health or whatever. But it can come down to, especially when someone comes from trauma, or, if someone comes from a background like me, where I grew up extremely overweight, and where obese runs in my family. And so body image trauma was huge for me growing up. So I would guide my clients. The first crucial step for somebody who goes through something traumatic that has that wound attached to the self-sabotage, I think it's critical for someone to take time and spend hearing that wound out. So like meditating with that inner child, or meditating with that part of yourself, or whatever age that you feel stuck at, right? So like for me, whenever I was dealing with my body image trauma, I would have to kind of go back to age like 9 and 12, like in my mind, and talk to that little girl and kind of help her rediscover that she doesn't have to identify as obese, or she doesn't have to identify as whatever she's identifying at, and help her reparent her into what we are meant to be, or into what feels better for us or more empowering for us. So the first step, or the first thing, or the thing that's really crucial in the process for overcoming self-sabotage, in the way that I would look at it, is we've got to figure out where we're judging ourselves, where we're rejecting ourselves, and we have to kind of go in and reparent those parts of ourselves. Because for me, I'm not going to be able to be disciplined, hold a boundary, focus on a goal, if I don't first kind of meet with that resistance, that voice of resistance. And that voice of resistance, I think, is confused as the devil, or the enemy, or the inner critic. And I don't think it's really any of those things. I think it's actually our emotions, or our inner child, that just needs to be acknowledged, that needs to be seen and heard and understood and accepted and loved and appreciated for what it's doing. And then together, once you have a relationship with this inner child, or this emotion like anxiety or fear, or whatever the emotion is, and you're able to create a relationship with it through the meditations and through the inner connection work, then what happens is, when anxiety or when fear or whenever one of these things come up, you can recognize it, because you have a you're now creating these connections of, oh, I know what this is. And now you have this ability to communicate with your emotions and say, hey, okay, I see that you're up. Like, what do you need from me? Instead of saying, you need to get over yourself and you just need to eat right or whatever. And we start fighting back at that voice. So my method, I take this fighting back or, ignoring or faking it until you make it strategy. And I kind of turn the tables a little bit and I say, how about we face the demons? How about we face the darkness, the shadows? We build a relationship with it and find a way that feels in alignment for your light and your dark version of yourself to work together to get to where you want to be. And so that's what I think is most important when someone has those wounds attached to getting to where they want to
be. Yeah, absolutely. Okay. So I'd love to touch on the fact that you said you help people get in alignment with who they are. I have a question. How do we know how do we know who we're supposed to be?
Well, and I think that that's just a journey within itself. So for me, when I first started, my own healing journey, like I was saying before, I didn't realize it, but everything that I was doing down to my career and my favorite color, I was operating based on what I thought society and my parents and everybody needed from me so that I could be accepted and they could be proud of me. And I didn't realize that I was just throwing myself into different facets of my life that I didn't really choose them. I didn't really consciously choose anything. I was just kind of being thrown at whatever my friend wanted to do or my lover wanted to do or my parents wanted me to do. And it was never, I didn't realize it until my dad died and things made me kind of look in the mirror and be like, where am I at and what is happening? Like, it really shook me up and it made me wake up and realize I don't really make any conscious decisions in my life. I don't even know how I got here. And then that's when that evolution of, okay, well, now I want to be conscious about what does Heather like? What does Heather enjoy? Not what does Heather enjoy because she thinks her friends will show up, but what does Heather enjoy even if she's alone with herself? And the other problem with not really knowing who I was for me, I think people that struggle with codependency can resonate with that, because when you struggle with codependency and you grow up very extremely codependent, which just means, for me, it's like I had an anxious attachment to the people that I was with. I had to be with somebody all the time. It was really hard for me to be alone. And when you have an attachment like that or a codependency wound like that, it can be really hard to know who you are because you're so concerned with how to be the person you need to be so that people will continue to hang around with you. But when you start to get to a place where, okay, well, who am I without all of these people? Who am I without all of these things? And that to me was a journey of breaking free from that codependency pattern and getting to a place where I could actually be alone with myself and not be freaking out or anxious or having to have my phone or having to call somebody or waiting for the next person to get here. I was able to just truly thrive and enjoy being in my mind and body. And so for me, figuring out who you are is that kind of experience, if that makes sense.
Yeah, absolutely. Because I do get some clients saying, I'm not too sure who I am. I don't know who I want to be.
What I like, where I want to go. Yeah.
Yeah. I have a lot of clients saying I don't know what I want as well.
Yeah.
A lot of clients.
And I think that it's that journey of just going in and just really figuring out like what you're made of. What are the stories in your mind and what is driving you? And, like you said, I can understand like a lot of people feeling that disconnect from who they are and what they want and what they like. And, I think it can be a case of we grow up being who we think we need to be so everybody else can be happy. And that plays a part in like losing connection to what we want and who we are and where we want to go and our vision for life. And then the other thing too is I think we're not taught enough how to explore ourselves. I think it can be very confusing to figure out what we enjoy, what we like, and what we don't like, because that's not really taught. We're more so taught in society just to listen and be a hard worker. Work hard, play a little bit and just listen to the man that's in charge. And we very rarely are taught how to self-lead, how to become a leader of our own selves and connect, because of course, in a society or in a government, we don't want to teach leaders, we want to teach followers so that we have workers, right? That kind of situation. And I get both roles, but for the most part, I think we can become so disconnected for ourselves because it's just not a normal thing for you to realize, oh, hey, I am an entire universe just on my own. Like my whole body it is a universe and a magical miracle just as itself. I think we forget how incredible and magical and powerful we are because we get so caught up in these mundane tasks that make us feel like we're not really that important, or we don't really matter that much, or we can't really make that big of a difference. So why bother in exploring anything? And it's a real passion killer. And I'll tell you right now, when you get into, if you're feeling like your passion is dead and you're interested in any type of holistic, healing or experiences, getting into chakra work or awakening the chakras or exploring the chakras, that was a really pivotal thing for me. I really enjoyed learning about the chakras and understanding, because I think it really helped me understand myself as an individual and how just the human body operates and how everything is connected, not only physically, but emotionally, mentally, and spiritually. And the chakras can really help you build that bridge to connect the physical and the spiritual and all of those things in between, so that you can really kind of see, oh, why my passion is low, or oh, why my confidence is low, or I have low self-esteem, or I can't set boundaries very well. A lot of that is all connected to the chakras too, and the chakras being blocked. And I'll tell you right now, just knowledge of the chakras can change and open a lot of doors without even doing a lot of the work. Just learning about the chakras can help your brain start to remember things. And I know for me, I started noticing energy flowing just because I was aware of it. And so that's a really cool thing for people that I definitely recommend.
What is it? Where attention goes, energy flows, right? That is like the most common phrase of that, like that just summarizes all of that's out there. And it's, most people use it.
Yes.
Yeah. Every single day I use it in my coaching practice. I'm like, okay, what are you focusing on today? What are you focusing on today?
Yeah, I think it's important. In one of my podcast episodes I was just recording yesterday, we talked about, it's really fun to be in the divine feminine and to let things flow and to just let things come to you. But it's so important to be balanced in the divine masculine too, where you're planning and you're making sure that you are taking time to take some sort of action, and you're not just in the sit, wait, and relax. And it's so funny. It's really a balancing act, because I know when I first started on this journey, I was in my divine masculine too much. I was taking too much action, overworking, burning myself out. And then you got to be careful whenever you get into the divine feminine, not to forget to show up and honor the divine masculine by taking action or making plans or, preparing for things, because that's the masculine piece of getting to where you want. You've got to be able to balance act between relaxed, surrendering, being detached, and making sure you're recharging and rejuvenating yourself. That's that self-care piece. And that's the, I'm going to do my, 5 hours of scheduled work, and then I'm going to take the rest of the day off, and I'm going to be present with myself and my environment and my children and my family. And that's the feminine piece, right? The 5 hours of work is honoring the masculine, and then just being able to go back in and out of flow between those two. And I think just being able to that's another thing, recognizing the energies inside of us that are operating through us and helping us stay regulated and balanced, such as the chakras, and then being more familiar with the fact that we all have these divine feminine and masculine energies that we need to be able to stay in balance with. And I think what helps there too, a lot of shadow work or inner child healing, like when you go in and you start connecting with that inner child, or you're connecting with these emotions that maybe scare you or you wish you didn't have, right? Because society made you think there's something wrong with anxiety, there's something wrong with having stress every once in a while. And there's plenty of studies, thankfully, now coming out to show we're meant to have these things. We're meant to have all of this. That's why we do. None of it's bad. But because we've got this idea that there's a problem here, we start manifesting these issues and these identities around it. And we start creating these excuses because we're scared to face the identities that we've now looped ourselves into. And so it's really just breaking free from these identities that are not yours, but they are part of the human experience. And that's another way of understanding yourself a little bit more, of going in and say, okay, who do I think I am? And what labels have I placed on myself? And going in and exploring that. Is it really true that I am this? Is it really true that I'm not worthy of these things? Is it really true? And I know for me, the lower you go to dig into those questions, the more you find it's all bull. It's all bull crap. It's all made up stories that you've made up.
Don't worry, I swear a lot on her. You're fine.
Yeah. So I'm sorry, I don't know what you.
Oh, sorry. I said, don't worry. I swear a lot on her. Don't worry. You're all good.
Yeah, but I just think that the more you are able to balance the light, dark, feminine, masculine, and be aware of like the labels and identities that we place on ourselves, and just, taking time to ask, is it really true that this is who I am? Or is it really true that this is who I need to be? I think that for somebody who's in a imbalanced masculine energy, who's overworking or taking too much action, burning themselves out a lot, I know whenever I was there, I had these ideas that I need to be perfect. I need to be here. Yeah, I can tell you're one of those, Bianca, with the crazy. I don't even know where I'm supposed to be right now.
Yeah, that's me.
You're like, oops.
Yeah. Okay, beautiful. Yeah, sorry, carry on, please.
Yeah, I was just going to say, I just think that it's a unique experience, and it just depends on the individual and where they're at in the journey, and where, what energies they might be caught up in, or what identities they might be entangled in. Because the mind, I don't know if you've ever seen The Matrix, but one of my favorite things about it is it talks about how it's all an illusion, but the mind makes it real. So if you die in the illusion, you die in real life because the mind makes it real. And so that, I really love that. The mind makes it real, because that's the same thing about our limitations and our identities. If we subscribe to it and we don't realize what we're subscribing to, we're so unconscious to these things. If we don't start digging into those subscriptions in our mind, the mind will make it real, and we'll start to experience these things. But the same is true when we remove that, when we remove those lies and illusions, and we start to look through the lens of miracles and whatever you're trying to look through the lens of, you start to see evidence of that, because the mind makes it real. So that's pretty cool.
I love that. Okay, so let's move this on to like how this can apply to the ladies in here. So a lot of conversations that I have, and I'm just going by like the majority here, a lot of conversations that I have are based around I want this, I want that, I want to lose weight and stuff like that. So although we've also mentioned, we have mentioned about like toxic traits and trauma and stuff, so that's going to be clearly impacting everyone or people on a day-to-day basis. But how do we, I guess, move forward into the version that we want through manifestation? I think that was like 3 questions in one. See, look, I'm full scatterbrain. Okay, let's strip that back. How would you recommend that we manifest our dream life and our dream body? I think is where I was getting with that.
Yeah, I think that I was kind of telling where you were going with it.
Sorry.
No, that's okay. I totally get it. So what I would do if somebody is wanting to get in alignment with their dream experience or their perfect plan, the best thing that I would recommend is following your joy, and really discuss, like, connecting with that joy. Now, in terms of your perfect life, so spend more time doing the things that make you happy so that you can be more prone to experiencing peace, laughter, and joy. And that can reduce the stress levels. And then, of course, the less stress you are, the more at inner peace you have and external peace you have, because you've made peace with all the judgments and the resistance. You've made peace with all of that. When you have that inner peace, just getting to a place where that stress can dissolve a little bit easier. And then coming into the perfect body, for me, I feel like it really is just a matter of figuring out what makes you feel good. So again, following that joy, figuring out what foods make you feel best, and then also making sure that the chakras can help with the metabolism and the thyroid and different other health related things that can cause weight gain, or issues with weight loss. So also being aware of the chakras and just being able to work through those things. And there's even foods that are related to the chakras that can help bring the chakras in balance. So there's just all kinds of different things with the manifesting, or being holistic on a holistic journey, that can apply to weight loss as well, as an additional to, like, if somebody's coaching with you and having that accountability, it can help you take it to the next level if you incorporate chakra healing, and really facing those emotions or those inner thoughts that might be causing some stress. Because the stress, as you probably know, I'm sure, Bianca, is also related to holding on to that excess weight that's no longer, that's not needed when we're not in stress. Because our brains don't know the difference between being stressed because of our boss or our boyfriends versus being stressed because we're being chased by a lion. So when we're in that stress response, we've got to hold on to the fat, because we don't know what if we're going to survive. And so if we don't deal with those emotions, and we don't deal with those thoughts, and we don't take care of it, it can really affect us being able to stay on track with anything that we're trying to do, because we're in a survival state. So hopefully that helps. Hopefully that is a helpful answer for that.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, so I've I've only just got one more question. Unless anyone else watching this has got any questions, please pop them in the chat. But I mean, I manifest things, not just body, but not just health, but business related, finances and stuff like that. So I try and manifest that, but I'm not a manifestation expert. I've read one book, and I'm trying to apply it, but it seems like so much to apply at once. And then obviously it's like anything, right? You can't just go balls deep in anything and just go and just like submerge yourself in everything and expect everything to just happen. So would you be able to give the ladies some practical tips and things that they can do to start stepping into the future version of themselves that they want to become, the things that they would like to achieve and manifest in their life?
So again, just speaking to what you're saying, like reading these books and, watching these videos, it can make you think you've got to do a whole lot to be able to manifest what you're wanting to manifest. But I think something that's important to know, as somebody who is a manifestation expert and has been doing this for several years now, the biggest thing that I understand is if it's not meant for you, it's not coming. So there's some stress that can be eliminated with that, but that can also be scary, right? But if you feel in your heart and your soul that what you are working towards manifesting is meant for you, then it's going to come. And it's just a matter of divine timing. So the universe, I don't know, a good example of this is if you've seen the Polar Express, right? Okay. And okay, so there's a character, he takes the girl's ticket and they're on the train and he loses the ticket. And off the scene, they follow the ticket down, it goes into a bird's mouth, it goes into a waterfall, it goes into all these crazy places, but the universe is slowly setting it back up so the girl can get her ticket back. And so that's a really good example of how the universe is working behind the scenes to go already putting you in alignment with what you want. Now, I will say that for me, it was what helped me really understand that so that I could stop overworking and trying all these techniques and doing all these things to manifest my desires, because that was only burning further. Yeah, please help. That was only burning me out further, is realizing that if it's meant for me, it's coming. It's on its way. And the only thing I can do is follow my joy. If you are not following your joy, if you are doing things that are making you unhappy, that is going because you think you have to, or it's because you think it's who you need to be, that will send you down the spiral of burning out, learning lessons. The universe is constantly going to show you why you don't have to do all these things. And you could potentially be missing out on the opportunity or delaying the manifestation just from coming to you because you're focused on all these things on how to control and get it faster and whatever. And I get it because that's what mainstream media tries to tell you to do. And I was there too. I tried it all too. And then I realized I don't need to do any of it. I don't need to do any of this other than keep this right, keep my mind right, clear all the confusion, clear all the noise, stay in balance with my energies, with my masculine, my feminine, stay alignment with my light self or my higher self and my lower self, the inner demons, the inner critic, because we all have them. We all have that higher self. We all have that lower self. Staying in unison with that. So like the yin and the yang, keeping everything balanced. And then allowing myself, like when I feel joyful or when I feel excited about something, I'm going to take action for it. And then it comes. Everything that I want is coming, but I'm not taking action. I'm no longer taking action. And I'm now finally in a place where I feel safe enough and secure enough within myself that I don't have to take action and keep signing up for this thing and doing this thing and working harder. Now, again, that's not saying don't do any work at all. Sorry, I was getting a phone call. What it's saying is only do the work you feel explosive about, because that is the energy that's going to allow everything that you want more of to come. But if you're focusing on things that you're not happy to do it, it feels like a chore to do it, I'm sorry, but you're not in an energy of attracting. You're in an energy of learning lessons and figuring out, why things are not working. And it can send you into this pattern of thinking something is wrong or that you're broken. And that's just not the case. You're just focusing on things that are not meant for you. Mm-hmm. And the universe has to show you that it's not meant for you through the form of lessons or making you uncomfortable or not giving you what you want. And so once you really get to a place where you can feel safe and secure enough to just follow your joy, only focus on the things that you're excited about, right? And then, of course, there are things, I get it. We all have responsibilities. There are things that we are not always going to be excited about. But the more connected you are to your emotions and your thoughts, and the more you're able to shift your perspective because of that connection, the easier it is to do the things that maybe we're not as excited about that we have to do. But then only focusing on every time we have that joy, just making sure we take that action and not doing anything else, making sure we leave that space for things that we don't really want to do, for that feminine energy to come in and say, nope, I'm recharging. I did everything that I needed to do and wanted to do today, and I'm not doing anything more. And just giving that space to surrender into, I did enough. I did more than enough, right? I followed my joy, up on my responsibilities. I'm amazing, right? And just being in that energy,
like you're talking
it's mine.
To me today.
Hey, well, that's okay. Sometimes that's how it goes on these podcast episodes. Sometimes I'm interviewing and I'm like, yep, this was mine today. This was my call. This is what I
Absolutely. So kind of believing that if it will come, sitting back and resting. There was something as well that I took away from the book, very much similar to that as well, is if you just believe that the universe is going to guide you and take you to where you need to be. It very much, and it's kind of like a blend, I think, maybe more of a summary of what you've said. It releases so much pressure to control and have control over everything, which on a day-to-day basis reduces that cortisol, takes us out of that sympathetic state where we're just constantly in fight or flight. So that's going to improve our overall well-being, our longevity, and so much more along the way. And I just thought that mindset of, believing that the universe or just recognizing that the universe is going to be giving you what you need. So just relax. And whether, like you said, whether that comes in the form of a lesson or not, or whatever it is, it's out of your hands.
Well,
right? Yes, you can go and apply for a job, or yes, you can go and take the dog for a walk. But ultimately, the universe, like you said with the ticket, will bring you back around to where you need to be.
Yeah. And I think that just allowing yourself to, sorry, I lost my train of thought here, but I'm trying to think. You were saying something right before the ticket, and I was going to say something, and then the ticket, I was like, I'm the ticket, and I float away.
That's literally like me. I was in the middle of my call today, and I was like, nope, my brain just boarded a train and left.
We're talking about
yep,
the
no.
book. There was something I was going to say about the book. 1 second, and it'll come back to me. I think you were talking about just allowing. Oh, abundance. See, I think what's so, misconstrued about manifestation is you don't create abundance. Nobody can create abundance. Abundance is always present. The only thing we can create is limitations. Again, the mind will make them real. So if we say we can't, or this isn't possible, or this is too hard, the mind makes it real. That's what we experience. But underneath all of those stories, the abundance, the health, the wealth, the prosperity, all of that is just already here. I mean, if you look around, it's evident. The water is here. We don't have to do anything to get the water. The water is just here. The grass grows. We don't have to do anything to make the grass grow. Earth takes care of it for us. There's so many things that we don't understand that are just always present. And the only thing that destructs them are the limitations that we create. And that's why I think it's so important down the path that I go to discover and to really figure out what you're made up of in there and dissect all of that and clear all of the stuff that's just disempowering you anyways, or keeping you stuck in a stress response anyways, and getting rid of all of that and coming into an alignment with just the truth, nothing more than the truth, that abundance is already here. You're a magical universe in and of itself, and you get to step into that energy of, I'm a leader. I know how to operate. I know how to connect to my intuition. Abundance is here. Health is here. And I'm connected to these things now. And all you have to do is clear the lies and get in alignment with the truth. And all you have to do is, and knowledge is power there, just learning the truth and then experiencing the truth from within you. And I like to guide my clients through that experience through meditation. And so that's that's my big thing.
Beautiful. So I think the key takeaway here is, if you want anything, meditation.
Well, and two, it's the experience of meditation. It's not like sit and be silent and do nothing for hours. It's more so calling forward that inner child, or calling forward those emotions like anxiety or fear or judgment or rejection, and talking to it, having a conversation in your mind. And so it can be easier, especially if you're not familiar with meditation, to have a guide like myself or somebody who's trained in meditation. But so, because I don't want to confuse people and be like, well, I'm sitting here for 30 minutes every morning and nothing is happening, because it's a little deeper than that.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, there's so many different forms of meditation. I think that it's important, like you said, to have someone guide you, especially if you want a specific outcome, or you're looking to do meditation, for a specific reason. Excellent. Okay, well, it doesn't look like we have any questions in the chat there. So, I mean, I am super happy with our talk today. I appreciate you for all of your patience at the start. Is there anything that you would like to add? How can these lovely ladies find you on social media? And I mean, did you have a freebie or anything that you wanted to drop in? If you do or don't, I don't know. We didn't discuss.
Yeah, so you can go to my website. On my website, there's a free masterclass on there that you can find. So my website is soulhealerinstitute.com. And so you can find my free masterclass. It's a 3-part masterclass there. And then the best way to just connect with me, I'm starting to post on TikTok and stuff, but if you want my fresh content, follow me on Facebook. So you can click on my name here if you see me in Bianca's page, and you can add me or follow me there. And then, if you're on TikTok or Instagram, I'm starting to post old content on there now. So, the best place to figure out where my links and stuff are either going to be my website, soulhealerinstitute.com, or my Facebook.
Excellent. Beautiful. Well, thank you so much. Is there anything else that you'd like to add today?
No, I think that this was good. I think this was fun. So thank you so much for having me. I hope that
Awesome.
people enjoy it and that it's helpful for them. And it, I really do think it can be a wonderful thing to add to what you do for your clients.
Absolutely, absolutely. Rebecca says, excellent presentation. Thanks for sharing. Pretty much fits me exactly. I felt like shouting amen every minute.
Oh, good. I'm so glad. Thank you guys for being able to join and help
Amazing.
play for people too.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for being here. I appreciate you. You're a wonderful human. Thank you. And I will speak to you soon.
Bye.
Bye.